Hello, so I thought I'd do a review of my Epiphone Plus Dot Pro that I got at the end of last year. It's a Les Paul Gibson copy, or well, it's made by Gibson, but it's under the Epiphone brand. And it came with a few flaws, and so I ended up doing quite a few mods to it. So I thought it might be useful for people if I could explain what I've changed on here and the effect it had. But before that, I'll just have a quick run through the different tones on here. So here's clean sound. So this is with the bridge pickup. So quite a clear sound on there. Not too bad at all. This is the neck pickup. Here is the bridge pickup single coil. And here is the rhythm pickup in single coil mode. So probably the neck pickup single coil is a little bit more useful than the bridge one. I find it's a little bit too thin on the bridge one. I've also got a phase pot on here as well, which the higher Epiphones had. I think it was the custom Pro ones had, but you can actually buy them and install them. It's quite an easy thing to install because there's a company that sells them with correct quick connectors, and that gives you the kind of Peter Green type tone, the middle position where you invert the phase of one of the pickups. Change that quite a bit. If they're both on flat out, it's got quite a nasally, almost a wah-wah pedal type tone. If you turn one of them down, see as I bring that other pickup in there on the middle one, you can does have quite a big effect, that phase shift pot on there. So that's basic tones. If I put distortion on, this is brown channel on the Katana, neck pickup, sorry, bridge pickup full volume. Of this sustain on here, it'll just keep going for ages. So that's the bridge pickup. The neck one is a lot smoother, sort of. And here's the next single coil with distortion. And here's the bridge pickup with single coil. As you can hear, it's got a noise gate on, but it is a bit hissier. And the middle, again, you can get a nice set of combinations here. It's quite nice to add just a bit of the neck pickup into this, and you get a end up getting a bit of a thicker tone. And again with a phase shift, you can kind of get Gary Moore type tones with this. So this is with the middle position here, but with this pickup a little bit higher. Or if you go into full kind of Gary Moore mode, I'll just put it on this with a bit more echo. Which is quite usable. And again, you can put it here with the neck pickup up. I'll just turn the bridge down a bit. Here's without the phase shift, it's a bit thicker. It's still going. So as you can see, it's got masses of sustain on here, which is always really handy. So that's basically what the different sounds are like on the guitar. Okay, so here we go with the tone pots. Here's the bridge pickup with the tone all the way up. Here it is about halfway. And here's the tone pot all the way down. And do the same with the neck pickup. So here's the tone pot all the way up. Here's halfway. And here's all the way down. Okay, so let's look at the sounds. I thought I'd talk about some of the mods I've done on it. And I wasn't planning on modding it when I got it. I had actually already done a setup on a pupil's guitar. And the problems he'd had with his were that the nut was set up wrong. It was far too high. And he had some uneven frets as well, so he had some fret buzz. So I sorted that out by fret leveling it and crowning it, and just in the case of his nut, it just needed some nut files to get the strings to the correct height. Now when I got my guitar, I had the same problem. I had some high frets. I went along with the fret rocker. It was all over the place, to be honest. Not really what you'd expect from that price of guitar. I mean, I've got a Harley Benton Telly, which I reviewed as well. That cost almost just over a quarter of the price. That was perfect. No problems at all with the frets. This, however, was not. And it seems to be a fairly common problem with these Epiphone Les Pauls. The new range they've got out this year, a lot of people were complaining about it. It's annoying because it's not really good enough. If you're going to pay a decent amount of money for a guitar, it should really be checked at the factory, and it's not that difficult for them to get the frets level. It does make me wonder whether they've got a problem with the way they cut their holes for the frets, whether there's something wrong with one of their machines, because they tend to be in the same sort of places, by what a lot of people have said. But in any event, as I do guitar setup, I didn't want to send it back. I thought I'd sort it out and do it. Initially getting the neck straight was quite tricky as well. It did kind of settle in after a while, and it was actually easier to get it to completely level, to fret level it after a few weeks playing. So I sorted that out, leveled the frets, crowned and polished them. That made a huge difference. You could really get the frets very, very low. I mean, currently I've got these at about 1.5 millimeters at the 12th fret and 1.2 on the thin E side. I could actually go lower than that. I think I can get down to about 1 millimeter. but at that point it starts to affect the tone, so I've just raised them up a little bit off that, but if you play light you could have it even lower. So that was one problem that took quite a while to sort out. Had I not had the ability to do that, I would have been a bit stuck with it. And the other problem is the nut. Again, the nut was too high. I don't understand how guitar manufacturers are incapable of getting nuts correctly set. It's not that difficult with a set of files. It's just, I don't know, 20 minutes, half an hour's work at the factory, and they just can't be bothered to do it, obviously. So initially I cut mine with some files, but I wasn't too happy with the plastic nut, so I changed it out for a bone nut, which was much better, to be fair. It did improve the tone, and it's not just placebo, it does improve it a fair bit. Now if you're going to change the nut, you need to take off the truss rod cover, because that does kind of hold it in a little bit there, and then when you take it off, just very carefully go around the lacquer, just in case any of the lacquer is contacting the old nut. You don't want to bang it out and find you chip a huge amount of paintwork off, so just very carefully go around there with a scalpel knife. I actually found when I took the original plastic nut out, there was only a very small amount of super glue. It came out very easily, which was nice. So they'd only put one blob in there, which was quite handy. So you just put something across there, give it a tap, out it came quite easily. The bone nut I got off eBay was pretty inexpensive. It was actually slightly too low on the treble side, so I had to shim it very, very slightly. If you need to shim a nut, easy way to do it, get some printer paper, fold it up until you get it exactly how you want it, play it for a day or so to make sure it's completely flat. Once you've done that, take the strings off again, put some super glue over the paper. That will then bind into it, and it will give you a nice solid joint. So if you need to shim a nut, that's what you do. Use some printer paper and some super glue, and that managed to get the nut down absolutely perfect, and of course that lowers the action of the strings, which is great. So those were the two major issues I had with it when I bought the guitar. As I said, I could have sent it back moaned, but as I had the kit to fix it, it was easier to do that here. So just be aware, if you are buying an Epiphone and you're going to the shop, probably take a fret rocker with you and have a look at the height on the nut and ask them to adjust it if it's too high. In terms of the rest of the guitar, the tuners are great. They're Grovers. I think they're 18:1 ratio. They're very smooth. They're absolutely fine. If you're having problems, I've not had any problems with tuning stability. It's not a tremolo guitar, so I don't have any problems with it. One little tip you can do is when you wind the strings on, put them through, allow about 4 centimeters extra, push it back, make a kink in the string, and then put the first wrap over the top of the string and the next wrap's underneath. And what happens is the string then is tightened up, the top wrap and the bottom wrap come together, and they will help keep the string in position. So it's a neat little trick, but it just makes them a little bit more stable in terms of tuning. So that's that end of the guitar. Nothing else up there. Leveled the frets and polished and crowned and polished them. Then we get to the pickup selector. This was a bit of a saga. I initially thought, well, the Epiphone ones are not known for their reliability, so I'll change it to a switchcraft. So I tried a switchcraft. Yeah, it was a slip of the tongue, but it might not have been far off the truth. A switchcraft short one, and that lasted for 2 days because it just self-destructed inside. And looking through some of the reviews of the short shaft ones, they are a little bit iffy in terms of quality control, so maybe they fixed it now, I don't know, but mine just managed to destroy itself. It was completely messed up inside. I think it was manufactured incorrectly, so got rid of that, and I fitted the same that Gibsons have, the long shaft ones. They do fit the Epiphones, but the hole through which they pass is slightly out. It's only by about 1 millimeter. So to get it to fit, very easy job. Just get some sandpaper, stick it round a pencil, and just remount the hole very slightly, and then it will fit okay. I actually bought one pre-wired because I was going to upgrade the wiring anyway, and it wasn't much more money. So to run the wiring through, you have to take the pickups out to get at the holes and bring it across, which is a bit of a pain, but fairly easy to do. I haven't done anything to change the pickups. I really like these pickups. They're Pro Bucker pickups on here. I think they sound really good. No real need to swap them out. One little tip I did do, which is a very easy mod, is to just change the screw heights on here to adjust for the core of the strings. Now that does actually make it a little bit clearer. So I'll try and post it under the video, but from memory I think the thick E you drop down 1 full turn. The next string is half a turn. I think you leave the D alone. The G is down 1.5. I think these 2 strings here might be up 1 turn, but I'll have to look that up and check it. But that does actually make it a little bit clearer because it compensates for the string thickness. In terms of pickup height, I found the sweet spot on these was a little bit lower than the setup from the shop. I think I've got them from the pole to the string at about 2.4 millimeters, something around that range. And then what I found is if you put them on a distortion and you hit a power chord, you can hear a kind of undulation, and you just adjust the height up and down until you get rid of that, and then it just seems to hit the sweet spot then, which I like. So I haven't changed them, but I have fiddled with them a little bit. The pickup height does make a difference, and the pole pieces you can adjust slightly to get a bit of a clearer tone off them. As you can see, I've got a clear pickguard here. I got this off Amazon. I feel a bit of a numpty really. When I first got it I thought it was opaque because it didn't look like it had any anything to peel off it, and I just assumed it was opaque, and other people had complained about the same thing when I looked at the reviews, but it turns out it was actually clear. It's just that the protector layer they put on was so tightly on there it wasn't obvious that you could actually pull anything off it. But I'll put a link to those on there, and I think they look great. You know, it's a lovely finish on this guitar, blueberry burst, and why hide it with a pickguard when you can get a clear one? So that's one of the mods I did there. I also changed the volume and tone controls for these as well, which are a bit more in keeping with the rest of the hardware on here. I think now Epiphone are putting different ones on their new model, but back then they were all the same orange kind of ones, and they didn't really fit with the rest of the guitar, so that was an easy swap out. And the other thing I've changed on here is I changed the bridge to a go-to bridge. I think it's the ABR1 National bridge that fits this. I'll put the link below to which one I used. You do have to file these slots a little bit to get it to fit well. On the plus side, compared to the Epiphone bridge, which has a kind of V shape for the slots for the strings to fit in, by cutting your own slots in here you can get them right for your string gauge. And what I did notice with it was string bending was a little bit easier, and the tone seemed a little bit better. They don't cost very much either. You don't need to change the studs, you just slot them in, and they don't rattle. There's no spring across here. The screw system on here is better. So it's probably a worthwhile upgrade to do, which doesn't cost too much. Just a bit of faffing around, making sure the grooves are correctly cut. But they do put an initial cut in there, so you know where, you know, it's not as if you're starting from nothing. Just make them a little bit deeper. So that's basically how you sort the bridge out in there if you want to improve it. I've put my tailpiece on here. It's the original one. I haven't bothered changing it. I've just screwed it down. It does give it a bit more sustain. Although the angle of the strings over the bridge isn't perfect, it's a little bit more acute than I'd like, but I'd rather have the sustain. In terms of string bending, I use 9s anyway, so it's not a problem. The other upgrade I've made, you can see to the side there, is I put a metal plate on. I think the newer Epiphones have a metal plate. The plastic ones are crap. I mean, they just always crack eventually, and there's just no point putting them on there. So if they have gone to metal, that's a good idea. And the other upgrade I made was a Puretone jack in there, simply because I like the idea of having 4 contact points on them. They're less likely to fail mechanically, and they do make a better contact. Whether they sound better or not, I don't know. It's a job to tell. They might well do, but if you've got a clean jack with a good contact point on there, it's probably not much different. But in terms of reliability, hopefully they might be a bit better. So that's pretty much all the upgrades I've done on it. I've changed these out for something that I can lock a very thick strap onto. This guitar is heavy, really heavy, as you expect with a Les Paul. I think it's 4.6 kilograms, something like that. So yeah, you would really need a wide strap to play this for any length of time. I've gigged with it for about 2.5 hour set, and it's fine as long as you've got a good strap. And the tone's great, the sustain's great. Really love playing it now. Sounds great. Very fast action, nice thin modern C type neck. Might even be a D, I'm not sure. But it's very thin. It's nice to play. If you've got very large hands, it might not be comfortable, but I'm used to Ibanez Wizard neck, so it's great for me. And in short, really nice guitar. It's a shame they put the prices up. If you can get one of the previous models, as I said, check the frets a level, but they're very nice guitars. How they compare with Gibsons, I have no idea, because I can't afford to buy a Gibson, and even if I could, I wouldn't waste my money on one, because £2,500 on a guitar that you could easily trip over or have nicked is, in my opinion, not worth it, unless you're just hanging it on a wall or you're not going out anywhere with it. I don't want to be wandering around pub car parks or outside theatres with thousands of pounds worth of guitar gear. It's just not worth it, really, in my opinion. This sounds very good, and I've got my doubts as to whether really, if you spend thousands more on a Gibson, you would really get much of an improvement. If you know how to set a guitar up really well and you can make these mods to this, you're probably 99% of the way there. There isn't much else you can do. You can easily swap pickups, but as I said, I'm quite happy with these. They sound really good to my ears. They sound great through the Katana, so I'm not going to bother changing the pickups. I have listened to videos where people have changed them, and in all honesty, some of the times it sounded worse when they swapped them out than when they left them, in the first place. So depends what sound you're going for, I guess. These are Alnico 2s, so they're not particularly high output, but they do sing pretty well, and there's great sustain off this instrument. So yeah, it's a great guitar. Really enjoy playing it. It's just a shame that Epiphone couldn't be bothered in the factory to set them up properly with level frets and a properly cut nut. So if you're listening, Epiphone, get that sorted, and yeah, you sell a lot more instruments.